Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of B is for Build. I'm Chris. This episode is proudly sponsored by Audible, and we will talk more about that later in the episode. What we have in store for this weekend is we're going to be working on our front clamshell. In the last episode, you guys will remember that we fixed and finished fixing the rear bulkhead, and that felt really good. We got a good sense of accomplishment, and we were able to kind of check that off the list, and now I don't have to worry about that anymore. So I'd like to do the same thing for the front clamshell. There's a lot of work to be done on this part though, so we're gonna have to be really strategic about what parts we work in and what times. That way we can do all the stuff on the underside, flip it over, do all the stuff on the top, and hopefully have it all finished in one weekend. If we don't, this episode will have a little part one by it, and you guys will know I already failed, but I don't know if I failed or not. So I'm gonna try my hardest to get this thing completely done this weekend and have it finished. So hopefully we can have it finished in the episode title. Who knows? Well, you guys know. This is weird, it's like time travel. Anyways, stay tuned. Alright, so before I get started, I want to kind of go over and recap, go over all the things that we need to be working on to get this thing finished. So this piece needs to get eventually reattached to here as a support, but to do that first we're going to need to clean this side up and clean this up a little bit. It also has the cracked, wherever these tabs bolted into, or this hole bolted into has been completely ripped off, so we have to fiberglass these back up and then drill holes through them, as well as we need to drill our hole here. So that all needs to be done, and then it has to be reattached to here, and when we do that we can't be flexing this area around anymore after we have that done. So that's like one of the last things we'll do at night. We'll put it on, clamp it on, leave it. Over here we got to take these bolts out. Also this bolt right here got ripped out of the fiberglass on both sides. So this side and that side, the center bolt hole got ripped off the fiberglass. That's got to be done. These are screws that go into the wheel well. They need to all be taken off. This side has this little support bar, that side doesn't. We need to cut this bar off. We're going to have to recreate it, create a duplicate of it to use on that side, and I bought the materials to do that, so we'll have to cut this off nicely without damaging this, pull it off of the car, clean up both those sides of the surfaces, create a new one of these, and then get that on there. So my thought is for today what we're going to try and do is get, and then the other big thing is that crack over there, the two pieces of fiberglass are overlapping in the wrong way, so I'm going to need to kind of pull that back, push it back down to where it needs to be, and then we got a fiberglass on the bottom to reinforce it. I think that's all stuff that needs to happen on the bottom. So my goal is, I think for today, is going to be to just get the whole bottom done and get those supports in. That way we can leave them overnight to set up and dry, as well as this part to set up and dry. And then in the morning I can come in and I can flip this part over and start working on the top. So where to get started? Start with some breakdown. I'm going to start with some breakdown. I'm going to remove some of those bolts, and I'm going to remove that metal little structure thing. Okay, well we've gotten to a point where everything on the back side that needs fiberglass reinforcement is cleaned up. They just need to be sanded and paint prepped before I can do it, except for this little piece right here. So basically what happens, it cracked, and when the fiberglass rips, it tears apart, and there's more glass left than there needs to be, and it overlapped in the wrong way. So I'm going to try and bring it back. God, that's a terrible sound. I don't know if I need to cut some of the material off before I do this or not. There we go. Alright, that's much better. So what that did was that basically just took a lot of the fibers and the strands that were they've been pulled apart. There's more strands than there were. Well, there's the same amount of strands, but they've basically been pulled apart. They're not arranged in the correct way. So they're overlapping the wrong way. I just kind of flap them back together. So there, now I can go ahead and sand this back area of this. It's got the right body line now, and it's at the right level on the back here. So I'm going to sand the back of this, and then I can fiberglass reinforce it when I do all these other things. Alright, everything's been sanded up, cleaned up, paint prepped, so we're ready to lay fiberglass on it. So we gotta do some build up on this piece and this piece so we can then drill another hole through it. Same deal goes for over here and on the other side. And then I found another crack back here that I want to reinforce the back of, as well as reinforcing that crack over there. So we got a lot of stuff to fiberglass, and we got to work fast before the resin sets up. Alright, all the fiberglass is laid up. Let's take a look at our handiwork here. So we did that corner, and we're just throwing a bunch on there. And we have the tape on the back, and the next round we'll come around to the back and go from the back. We have over here where we did about, I don't know, two layers in some places, 3 layers in some other. So over here there was a crack, small crack on the other side, and so I just wanted to reinforce this because it's a little bit shy on material on the back side. So we reinforced that, and then coming back over here, we did this piece the same way, 2 or 3 pieces on the top, 1 on the bottom side, and then there's our crack right here, and we put a bunch in there, reinforcing all that. So everything's all laid up. I'm gonna go grab lunch while this dries, and then when we come back, we'll probably do another layer, and then we'll start working on duplicating that support bar that went through there. All right, shifting over to the fabrication side of things. So we have this piece right here, which is a support for the front clamshell that we took off so we could duplicate it. It's going to be a really hard piece to duplicate because these have different little angles and things to them and little bits of different tilt that are for the side that I took it off, and you can't just mirror this piece. So I've got a kind of strange strategy of how I'm going to do this. But the first thing I'm going to do is take my steel rod stock that I bought. I'm going to cut it and sand it to match the angles of this. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is build the little feet, and then I'll figure out a way to tack them all together in the right angle and the right kind of tilt. All right, well that was really fun. So we have our 2 parts now, and you can see they have the same. Oops, this one goes like this. They have the same length kind of and angles, but then the angles are mirrored so they can go on the different parts of the car. The only difference between my part and the other part is, well, I have a little bit smaller steel rod here, but also I need to drill the holes. So the holes are used, I think, for a little bit of the fiberglass to kind of splooge through and hang on to it from the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes in this piece and also drill the fiberglass out of the holes in this piece with the drill press real quick, and then we are done. This was really fun. It felt really good to be able to fabricate this part with just stuff that we had here, and it came out really good. All right, these parts are done. They got holes drilled in them. They are cleaned up and ready to be installed. I'm happy. We're getting pretty close to being done for today, which is pretty cool. So these parts are ready to be installed. Before we do that, we have to lay up the backing fiberglass for this piece and the clamshell pieces. So you have this part, and then this part on the clamshell, and then that part on the clamshell that need to be reinforced from behind with more fiberglass. So I'm going to lay up that fiberglass, then we can look at installing these and installing this reinforcement piece right here. All right, fiberglass reinforcement of those parts is done. The next thing I did was I went through with all these pieces that are going to need to be mounted back on. So this piece and the 2 bar pieces, and I cleaned all the surfaces up really nice. So I tack ragged all through here and all on this piece, and then sprayed it down with degreaser and cleaned it off. So here and back there and back there. And what we're going to use to mount this thing back on, so Lotus OEM used what I believe was just a fiberglass, like a resin, like the same type of resin that we use with our fiberglass. But they probably use like a thicker one. What I'm going to go ahead and use is the short strand reinforced body filler fiberglass stuff. It's Bondo calls theirs Bondo glass, you know. Anyways, it's got what looks like the same type of consistency, and I think it's going to work really well for this application. So I'm going to mix some of that up, and I'm going to apply it. Like they applied a lot, enough that it was kind of squirting out all around the side. So I'm going to do the same thing. Apply a heavy dose on here and on here. Then we're gonna go ahead and put this front part together and clamp it down. And then once that's done, I can go over to working on mounting up those supports. Well, it was a bit of a surprise to me, but we were able to get all 3 parts on before the fiberglass filler started to seize up on us, to harden up on us. So you can see here we got this piece on, it's clamped down, and we did a good amount of application. Just, you know, that's about the amount that was coming out when the factory did it. And over here, you can see we got these babies back on. And it's a little bit more messy than when Lotus did it, but not by too much actually. Lotus made quite the mess as well, which just makes me think that, you know, this is something that's never been seen, so don't worry about it and just get it on there good. And that's what we did. We just really put it on there in excess so it would really stay attached. And here we are over here. Overall, really big success. I'm super happy. So that is it for today on the clamshell. Everything else has to dry, and then tomorrow we can flip it over. And I think tomorrow is going to be a more challenging day because there's basically a lot of finishing work that needs to go on, and that stuff can take a lot of time. But we'll run into that tomorrow when we have to deal with that. All right, guys, well, that is a wrap on the backside of this front clamshell. Everything that is on there now needs time to set up and dry up, so I'm about to get out of the shop tonight, and I'll be back tomorrow morning, and we'll flip this thing over and start working on the other side. Before I get out of here, I want to talk about our sponsor, Audible. Audible is a great company. I use their product. Audible has a massive selection of audiobooks and more. I've been listening to George R.R. Martin's Game of Thrones on Audible when I'm like in the shop here and I don't have, obviously you can't read, we proved that last time. And when I'm in the car, I listen to it on my commute. It makes commutes a lot faster and I'm zipping through the book, which is really cool. So I love their product. It's a product I can really stand behind. And big thanks to Audible for sponsoring us and helping us out. You guys can start a free 30-day trial at audible.com/build. You get a free 30-day trial and an audiobook for free. So you guys go check it out. It's an awesome product. I really like it. Thank you very much to Audible. And again, that's audible.com/build for a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. So this screen's about to go black. It's gonna fade to black. And I think you guys should just pause the video, go to audible.com/build, sign up, get a free book, and it'll be awesome. And you can listen to Game of Thrones with me. All right, guys, see you tomorrow. Peace. Oh wait, but that's not end of the episode piece. That's just see you tomorrow piece. I'm gonna see you in like a half a second. And we're back. All right, everything dried up really nicely. It's all super strong. I'm gonna go ahead and take these off, and then I'm gonna very gracefully, that's right, gracefully flip this thing over so we can see what's on the top side and see what we're working with for today. How to be graceful about this. Oh, shit. Oh, clothes on my hand. Close, looking. Oh.
Graceful.
Ow. Got step. I'm stuck. Okay, it looks like we're gonna have our hands full today. So here are some of the areas that we're gonna need to be working on. We're gonna need to throw some of that short strand body filler right here. Level this out before we start sanding it. This all needs to be cleaned up. I have this little chip that goes back here. That's mostly paint, but I'm just gonna go ahead and resin that back on. Then we gotta even out that whole front section. Over here we have our bigger crack. This is gonna need to be ground down, worked out around, and then right here we're gonna have to fix some stuff here. This is kind of strange. This probably, well, I guess it needed to come off, so it's coming off. So we're gonna have to re-glass this right there and get that looking right and bring that crack down. Over here, just some deep scratches mostly, so we'll body fill those back in, and then we have to fix up this cracked area right here. We're gonna have to just Dremel down to it and see what that really is when it gets down there. We couldn't see anything from the other side, so it's probably not too bad. And then most of the other side is actually luckily not that bad. We have this corner piece that we reinforced the back with fiberglass, so then we can just work on the top here with body filler. And then these are just small scratches that we can body fill and like sand first and then body fill around. and that'll finish that stuff up. High fill primer too will help with that. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and get started on is going to be this front piece over here because that short strand fiberglass body filler takes a little bit longer to dry than most other things. So we're going to go ahead and get in here, clean this up. We got to prep it again, remember, so everything's got to be sanded and prepped again, and then we'll go ahead and lay like a nice coat to try and even this out as much as we can. All right, everything's been ground down, cleaned up. We've exposed that back crack and all the space that we need to on this side part too. So I've mixed up some of that short strand body filler. We're gonna go after each one of these different areas and do the short strand body filler on each one of them. I apologize, I did not have this part on camera. This part went pretty well. The rest of the parts were a little bit more of a struggle. We got good coverage on that, and it's nice and even, so I think that's going to be good, and we'll do a sand down, and then that's ready for body filler for finish work. This one went a little bit less so, but I think it's going to do the job. The idea was I was just trying to get contact with fiberglass underneath with this fiberglass resin stuff, so I did that. Got that piece in there, and then this piece started to dry up on me, so I went out and mixed some fresh stuff and threw that on there. So while that stuff is drying up, it's going to take a good amount of time for that stuff to harden up. There's all these scratches and stuff that I can work on, so I'm going to hand sand around the scratches, and then I'll come in with a razor blade and fill them with body filler, and then the next coat of high fill primer will probably finish all those off. So I'm going to do that on this side and on the other side. All right, we've given everything ample time to dry up. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna come back and clean up the spots where we did the fiberglass reinforced body filler. We're gonna sand those down, start to shape them up the way we want, and then on top of that, we'll do a layer of body filler for the finishing work to smooth it out. And then the places where we just did body filler, we're gonna sand those down, and then we'll spray some high fill primer over those to get the smallest little scratches out. All right, we've got our body filler laid up, so I'm just gonna go over this real quick and just spray a little light misting of this black on here, and this is just gonna be my guide coat so I can see where I'm sanding and how it's going. And we're gonna just sand all this stuff up real nice and clean up this body filler the best we can, and then it's time for the high filler primer. All right, things are coming along pretty good. We need to do another round of body filler in all the 3 major spots. They all have like some divots and some rough points I can feel. The guide coat was helpful, but not super helpful. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and do another round of body filler and then high fill primer. And then I'm just gonna cut the camera for a little bit, and just because it's like very repetitive, I'm just gonna do the same process over and over and over again. And then I'll come back and show you guys where we ended up. All right, while that primer is still a little bit wet, I want to kind of show you where we ended up. So we're actually pretty close here. You're gonna see some kind of splotch areas like that one right in front of you, and that's just texture because of the body filler. That's a bit of an inconsistency. So on the front, we're looking really good. We need to finalize that edge, the edge that goes across here. We got a little bit of some light spots here. We could probably just sand that down, and we have some other stuff that's gonna need more high flow primer, so we'll sand that down, and the spots that are left will be easy to see. This came out really well. So if you look in here, we have a couple tiny little pits that we need to fill up. Other than that, it's shaped up really nicely and it came out good. And then this spot over here, we put Bondo in it, but it really didn't kind of work with it. So we have high fill in there, and we're gonna need to do another layer of Bondo after we sand down the high fill, I think. We'll just do a little bit of finishing work with the Bondo in there. That whole kind of like rail area needs a little bit of work. And some scratches in here that you guys won't be able to see. And then on the other side, we're finishing up this piece right here, which needs a little bit of work. It needs to be sanded down flat, which I already knew. And then over here, we have our scratches that got filled up with high fill pretty nicely. So it's coming along great. I'm actually further along than I really thought, because I think we're basically done with Bondo. We need to do a little bit of razor blade work here and on a pit over here, and maybe a little bit in the front here. But other than that, we're done with body filler. It's just high fill primer and a little bit of sanding to go. So I'm gonna get on that, and I'll check you guys back in when I'm done with that. All right, guys, well, it probably doesn't look too different, but I've done a couple different rounds of like small patches with body filler and high filler primer, and then sanded. And I think I've got it. So what I'm gonna do, one good way to check is when it gets all glossy, it bounces the light really well. So I'm gonna do a light coat of high filler primer across here and across this back section. I'm 100% sure that right section, that's done. That is all finished and super smooth. So I'm gonna spray this part, and then I'll grab the camera and we'll jump over there and take a look at it and see how it turned out. All right, I don't know how well you guys are gonna be able to see this because we're looking for really minute details here, but I'll go ahead and try and show you anyways. So this is looking really good. We're good on the top part of this. This will get trimmed on the bottom. We don't really need to worry about that. I can do that any other time. This rail right here that we recreated, that needs to be a little bit more rounded, just a tiny bit. We're gonna need to do a little bit of sanding here. You can kind of see where the Bondo the body filler kind of did some, you know, like overlapping stuff. So that's gonna be real light grit sandpaper work just right through here, and soften that up. Back in here, right here in this little crease, we have the same issue. We need a real little light work done on there. And then we had we have a little pit right there that we need to get worked on. And other than that, this is right around here somewhere was the other crack that we filled. I don't even know where it is anymore. And then what you can see is our rail here, or this body line that goes through here, is a little bit pinned out. It needs to be softened up too, and that'll be with the real fine stuff. So then I'll show you the other side, which is already done. We repaired this part right here, and then this is how that other side turned out. And that's just the high filler primer is taking up the low spots, and that's that. It's super smooth and glassy. So I'm really confident with that part. Okay, so I gotta wait 30 minutes to let this stuff dry, and then I'll do that work, and then that's a wrap. All right, guys, I went through and did that little detail work with some 400 grit sandpaper, and this thing is wrapped up. We are done. I do need to come in here and trim these little guys off, but I'll do that with a Dremel tool once everything's dry. I don't want to get fiberglass dust over everything. And then other than that, we're completely done. So we could have sent this part out, but it would have taken probably a very long time and at least a couple $100. This is a $5,000 part, so I didn't want to buy a new one. And we fixed it for the supplies we used were between $20 and $30. So it was a long weekend. It was like 20 to 21 hours this weekend, but it was totally worth it because we got this thing completely finished. We could check that off the list, and it feels really good to come in and set a goal and accomplish that goal. Just check another thing off the list. So that was really fun. If you guys enjoyed watching and you want to help support BS for Build, head over to bsforbuild.com, scroll down to the shop, purchase anything on our shop. We have our E46 shirts that I mentioned in the last episode. I'm still throwing in a free drink koozie. If you guys want to get one of those, pick them up before they're gone. But buying anything from the shop, I manage all that stuff. I ship it all out myself. I design everything. That way all the proceeds stay in-house. There's no third party, and they all go straight back into the builds and nothing else. So thank you guys all so much for the support. Other ways you can support, we have a Patreon that I'll put in the description, and supporting our sponsors helps support BS for Build. So head over to audible.com. Audible was our sponsor of this episode, obviously. Head over to audible.com/build and start your free 30-day trial and pick up your free audio book at audible.com/build. Let's see, you can find us at facebook.com/BSforBuild and BSforBuild on Instagram. We got some fun stuff coming up, a little bit of not car stuff that I'll be posting a lot of pictures on both of those things. And we have BSforBuild.com. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to like and subscribe. Peace.